hearing Mr. Simon admit for the first time what he did to my daughter, probably the hardest thing I've ever had to experience in my life. Because up until the day of his sentencing, everything was so nonchalant. So I didn't do it. This is a lie. I did nothing. And even at his hearing, when he pled guilty, it was, okay, what's going to happen if I just plead guilty? Does the time that I've been in jail count towards whatever I'm going to get? A 15-year sentence with less than half of it having to be served, in my opinion, is not enough for the life-changing harm that he has caused my daughter and my entire family. My daughter was not even 15 years old when this happened. It happened the day before her birthday. She spent her 15th birthday doing a forensic interview in a police station.
And you heard correctly. Now, what makes this case even more sick, or I guess we're quite accustomed to the insanity of this already, but he didn't plead guilty until June 30th of 2022. He wasn't sentenced until September of 2022. 15 years jail, suspended after 7. And now, if you can imagine, he is up for parole less than 3 years into that sentence. You can't make it up. Now, to add insult to injury, he only has to register for 10 years. And he's considered a low risk to reoffend. But what do we know? We're just sheeple. Now, we'll watch this parole hearing and I'll unpack it with what details we have at the end.
Robert Simon, 256201.
This hearing is being conducted in consideration of the parole application for Robert Simon, 256201. He is serving a sentence of 15 years, execution suspended after 7 years jail, followed by 10 years of probation for illegal sexual contact with the person under the age of 16. As of today, records reflect a parole eligibility date of June 9th, 2025 at 50%. There is victim input in this case. There is an offender accountability plan for the offender. It has been reviewed and showed that the offender has completed Tier 2 in sex treatment program. He also remains on the wait list for a job in Voices, was recently added in September of 2024, utilizing the statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system. The offender overall score falls within the high range of risk for recidivism, and utilizing the static 99R, the offender overall score for sexual offense recidivism falls within the low range.
You are trash.
For the static 99R. Mr. Simon, this is your opportunity to express to the board why you believe you should be granted parole. You may begin.
For one, I'd just like to say how sorry I am to the family and to personally.
We don't, Mr. Simon, we refrain from using the victim's name.
I'm sorry, I didn't know that.
Okay, so go ahead, go forward with your statement.
I would just like to say how sorry I am for all that has happened through everything. This is not something that I can ask forgiveness for, because I could probably never forgive myself for what had happened. I've for the last 3 years sat in a cell and thought how I could ever do this. I have 5 kids of my own, 2 of which are female. And it's I don't know, it's like it's pushing me to like have a mental break. There's no rhyme or reason for everything that's happened. And I know I can't fix it. If I could take it back in a second, I would. It's just, I don't know. I've gone to mental health. I've set up a relapse program with my therapist, slash psychiatrist. I have family support. I have friend support. I have a fiance, that's willing to support me, through everything. I've done other programmings and got some understanding for how this has happened, and some understanding of how this should never happen again. And all I can do is ask to be able to move on from this point. I know it's not something that's ever going to go away. It's nothing I'm ever going to be able to get over. I'm going to have to work on it every day. It's almost like I would say like a drug addict. It's not something that in 2 years I'm going to wake up and say, okay, well, I'm done with that. I've fixed myself, because that's not how I see it. Like I said, I dwell on it every day. Every day I wake up, it's there. I just don't understand how I was capable to do it. It's unforgivable. There's no way that it's it's not something you say, yeah, let's just move on from, because it's the pain that I caused the family and the victim is horrendous. I just don't understand how I did it, and that's one thing I'm trying to work towards now, and doing the programs and everything else. I tried to get everything I could out of them, and I believe you have all the information from that. And now I'm basically, like I said, I have 5 children of my own. I'm trying to explain it to them, my youngest being 13 and also being a female, to how their father was capable of doing something like this. And being here, I've asked the questions, I've got all the information that they gave me. I just don't see any further help while I'm here. I mean, either way it goes, I'm gonna wake up tomorrow and it's still gonna be there. It's still gonna be a thought. It's still gonna be in my head. It's still gonna be a question of why, and I don't have that answer. Right now, all I can say is that I'm physically trying to get help for what had happened, and like I said, there's no excuse, but it's definitely not excusable for what happened. And I don't see a reason for it, and it's a horrendous crime. It really is, and it's not something I'm ever going to live down.
Well, Mr. Simon, I appreciate all your opening comments. We have reviewed all the information in your file, as you had mentioned, different aspects of documents that are contained in your file. We reviewed about your participation in the programs. So having reviewed all of that information, we are going to ask you some follow-up questions.
Okay.
Then we have the Office of Victim Services will then be part of the hearing, and we will deliberate and give you our decision after that.
Okay.
Okay. And Ms. Zappo-Sasu is going to start with questions this morning.
Okay.
And good afternoon.
Good
I'm
afternoon.
just going to ask you very directly, based on the offense that we're here to talk about today. In your statement, you said, "I'm sorry for all that has happened." Can you tell me what has happened? Because in the police report, you denied it, and the PSI, you denied it. At sentencing, you said you were sorry and remorseful. And in one of the reports, you finally admitted that you used a finger. So what are we talking about? What are you sorry for that has happened?
The whole thing, the touching, everything. I mean, the offense in itself is basically what I'm apologizing for. It never should have happened. Whether it was a hug or a touch or a rub or whatever, it just, the whole incident. I couldn't believe it myself in the beginning. And that's why I was like that. When it came to me being sentenced and everything, I came to the realization that I actually had done the crime. You know what I mean?
The crime being the a
Yes.
girl who was about to turn 15 the next day,
Yes.
which includes sexual intercourse of a
Yes.
girl who was about to have her 15th birthday. That's
Yes.
what we're talking about, based on
Yes.
DNA and everything else.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you for saying that, because that is at the crux of what we're talking about today. You've talked about, well, we've read about your childhood and some of the trauma attached to that. We've read about your history, criminal history. And you've talked about that even previous to this, that you've been in counseling. And while we don't need you to speak on the record about your mental and medical issues, because this is live streamed, I'm acknowledging that you yourself at one point in time have recognized that you needed therapy and help. And it seems to me by your statement here today that you're acknowledging that that needs to continue. In your programming that you've done, the short-term program for sexual offenders and or tier 2 and or what you've done within the mental health units, can you succinctly and concisely tell me some of the takeaways that you're going to use in the future?
I have more of an understanding of how bad and heinous the crime really is. And personally, I hate myself for doing it. Like, it's not something that'll ever happen again. And the programs themselves, I got understanding out of it, of how this happened. It made me see reasons in there of why this happened. It's not something, it's kind of hard to explain exactly what I've taken away from it. What I've learned is what not to do and how bad it is. That's the understanding and the takeaway from that. It's just working on myself and learning that I need help. That's never going to end, whether it be a psychiatrist, therapist, whatever. And this is also part of the plan that I have set up. If I do get to go home, I have the therapist that was seeing before. I plan on getting back in with her if I can, if not another one or psychiatrist immediately. It's definitely something that I need.
You're aware that you are going to be on the registry for 10 years.
I am very aware of that. I am also aware of the probation. And I believe, you know what? I deserve it. I deserve it because like I said, I don't understand why I committed the crime. That's the whole thing. I don't understand why. And I'm looking for that as to why. Because it's just not in me to commit a crime like this. And you, as you said, you had my crime history, drugs and stuff, and theft and burglaries and stuff like that. Never in my life did I ever think that something like this would happen, ever.
Well, and just my last question to you is, understanding that and knowing that you've been in and out of the judicial system, you have not done well on probation in the past. There have been violations. This probation would be 10 years where someone is going to be very involved in your life. And as you look for these answers, depending on whenever your eventual release is, I hope that you realize that those people are there to help you, as opposed to eluding having any type of relationship with them as you've done in the past. Do you understand what the role is that they will be playing in this new offense and your probation attached to it?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, I do. And in the past, violations, I would just like to say that I had a drug problem back then. That was pretty obvious. And I believe that if I could have gotten help for the drug issue back then, or if I would have wanted, I should say, if I would have wanted the help back then, I wouldn't be sitting here today. The thing was, back then, I was dwelling on stuff from my childhood, and the only way to get away from it was the drugs. And once I realized that, I was out there for 14 years without anything. 12 years without anything. I believe that if somebody's willing to give me that chance and hold their hand out, I'm taking it. I'm taking all the help I can get. I mean, if I have to live with the guy, I will. This is how I feel. If I have to go into an inpatient program, I will. I'm looking to help myself. I'm not saying, okay, yeah, let me go home and just live and leave me alone type of thing. I'm going to be actively looking to help myself. I don't ever want something like this to happen again. I mean, the pain and the anguish I must have caused it's ridiculous. There was definitely no reason for it.
You've spoken briefly about your relapse prevention plan as it relates to treatment and the instant offense. But I'm assuming that with your drug history that you're also going to need a relapse prevention plan to avoid substances moving forward as well.
Yes, I worked on that. The last time I got out of jail, that's how I actually made it as long as I did. Basically, what my plan is to go home for that is to get back into NAAA and to get another sponsor like I had before, because I had a sponsor in New York. And that helped me tremendously to stay clean.
Thank you for speaking with me, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So, Mr. Simon, what did you identify as triggers, risk triggers?
As far as using
Risk factors? No, so for using and more so for the sexual assault. When you went through treatment, what did you identify as risk factors?
Hanging out with the wrong people, talking to the wrong people, and ignoring a lot of the positive things in my life. I learned now, the more positive I stay and the more honest I can stay with myself, the more I can help myself, because the more honest I can be with other people. And being honest with other people like that and asking for help is the biggest thing in the world. I've never really had anything like that until I got that sponsor, and I never really, realized how easy it was to actually have a good life until that point. And like I said, I don't have any excuses for what happened, because there's no excuse for that. That it should have never happened. The bottom line is it should never happen, and it should never happen again. There's no rhyme or reason.
Well, you are right. It should not have happened. Why today do you admit that it happened? Because right up until when you had that sex offender evaluation, you said she didn't say no. You've denied throughout, as my colleague said, the sentencing, the pre-sentence report, and even as I just said in the sex offender evaluation, you still were unable to admit what you had done, that you had sexually assaulted this young girl.
Because I was told not to admit to it. I took advice from somebody I never should have taken advice from. And I believe that they were telling me what to do, as being a good person or whatever. And I just shouldn't have done it. Because I realized afterwards that, you know, I'm like, this is not getting me anywhere. I'm not getting any help for myself. I can't wake up every day feeling like this. That was the only way to get on the right path, was to come and be honest with everything and have everything come out in the open. There's no, you know, there's no other way for it. You can't, a regular person as myself, I couldn't live with myself. Keep going like that and living with myself, I couldn't do it. It was literally eating me up inside every second of every day. I had to become honest, and everything had to come out.
So when we talk about your substance abuse issues, do you have a problem with alcohol?
No, I've actually never had a problem with alcohol. But I do, when I do the meetings, I also do alcohol meetings.
So when you identify risk factors, right, you say, I saw alcohol as one of them. You have you have driving under the influence convictions in New York.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I have several notations where alcohol has been an issue, and you still don't think it's a problem?
You know, you just brought that to my attention. I I never really realized that, to be honest with you. I thought we were going as it being, is alcohol an issue? Like, because I don't have to drink. You know what I'm saying? Like, I could go to a party and not drink. I can hang out with people that are drinking and not drink. I've done it before. So that's why I said that it wasn't an issue.
Okay. You were using alcohol the night that this happened as well, correct?
Yes, I had a couple beers that night, yes. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Simon. Ms. Chance, do you have any follow-up questions?
I did. So I was going to ask him whether he thought the alcohol played a role, but I decided to ask him. You said that you thought the feelings were mutual.
I did.
What feelings would those be? And what was going on with you? Why you would assume that of a 15-year-old girl?
You know what? I don't really know what was going on with me at that point. And
You weren't able to figure that out in the sex offender treatment program?
yeah, I got some information from that, but it didn't get into deep enough thought. That's why I had set up the relapse plan for when I go home, because I need more understanding of the whole thing. And their program, it gives you let's say starts to everything, but it doesn't give you like a finish. It doesn't get fully in depth, which I believe I need, which, you know, I'm not denying it. I need more understanding of why it happened. I don't understand why I would ever
Wait a
do
minute.
something like that.
So you said that you thought the feelings were mutual.
Yes, ma'am.
So what you're saying is that you felt the victim wanted you as much as you wanted her.
Yes, that's what I
And
thought.
if that was the case, why would she go and report it right after it happened?
I don't know. I don't know. It was the next day, it was the next morning, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that question, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Were you in the relationship with your now fiance? I think you said you have a fiance.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have a good relationship with her?
Yes, ma'am. I still do.
This is just very puzzling for me, Mr.
It is also for me, ma'am. That's
Smith. There's just something missing, and the concern that I have is that you did participate in the short-term sex offender program
yes, ma'am.
and must have had some idea. But all you said is that you learned what not to do and that you need to work on yourself. But that is so vague that I'm just having some concerns about that.
Okay, I thought that she was attracted to me. If at that point when everything happened, like I said, I thought she had the same feelings. I now understand that she didn't, obviously. I just don't understand where those feelings came from. And that's what I said, that they didn't get really in depth with that program for that. I needed more, and that's what I'm asking for. I'm not here trying to say, oh no, I didn't do it.
Okay.
I'm here admitting to it and asking for help. I'm not saying, okay, just drop me off on the street and, let me go. It's not something I'm asking for.
Okay. You need to go through the group and get your counseling. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you for answering my questions, Madam Chair.
Okay. Mr. Simon, just as a quick follow-up, you were out on bond while this case was pending for a while?
I was, ma'am.
Did they revoke your bond?
Yes, they did revoke my bond.
Did you were you able to post bond again and get back out?
You know what, at that case, I wasn't going to. I wasn't going to at that point.
So they revoked your bond in April and you were sentenced in September?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And while you were out on bond, what were you doing? Were you doing any treatment? Were you working? What was your life like while you were out on bond for those 18 months?
I wasn't doing any treatment. It was still like COVID / whatever. I'm sorry, that's a lie. Because I was with my therapist twice a week. That I was doing. I was talking to her. I was trying to figure out how this happened. She was trying to help me out with the whole situation. Other than that, I wasn't in any treatment or anything. Like I said, that was twice a week. I was working on that.
And you have no disciplinary reports, which is good. We expect you to have good conduct, which allows you to participate in programs.
That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to fix the problem. The only issue I ran into was the short-term program that I did do ran out. There was, there was nothing left for me to do. So it's like I went back into population, and I did the best thing I could do was do the vocational programs and job that they wanted me to do, and the tier 2.
All right. Well, we appreciate you answering our questions. We will now hear from the Office of Victim Services. And so you would stay there and listen, but please do not interrupt. Thank you. Ms. DeJesus?
Good afternoon, board members. I do have the guardian of the victim via Teams. This is your opportunity to express to the board your wishes and your concerns. I am to remind you that you are to address the panel members only. You may begin. Please hit *6 to unmute.
Good afternoon, board. My name is, I'm the victim's mother in this case. I'm speaking on behalf of my whole family at this point. Hearing Mr. Simon admit for the first time what he did to my daughter, probably the hardest thing I've ever had to experience in my life. Because up until the day of his sentencing, everything was so nonchalant. So I didn't do it. This is a lie. I did nothing. And even at his hearing, when he pled guilty, it was, okay, what's going to happen if I just plead guilty? Does the time that I've been in jail count towards whatever I'm going to get? A 15-year sentence with less than half of it having to be served, in my opinion, is not enough for the life-changing harm that he has caused my daughter and my entire family. My daughter was not even 15 years old when this happened. It happened the day before her birthday. She spent her 15th birthday doing a forensic interview in a police station. It's a day that she'll never, ever celebrate again because of what this man did to her. Him not pleading guilty has caused her to question, him not admitting his guilt has caused her to question, question things that, that she shouldn't have to question as a young woman. She's been in therapy. She'll be in therapy for the rest of her life because of this. She'll never trust. She'll never be able to, to celebrate wins like a regular girl. Her virginity was taken by a man who misconstrued feelings from a 14-year-old girl. And he's sitting in a jail cell asking to get released 4 years early from a sentence that doesn't even begin to cover what he has caused for my family. When he was out on bond, he wasn't able to stick to the terms of his release. He was brought back in. He was out having a good time. He was on social media partying and just having a jolly old time, like nothing happened, like he did not ruin my daughter's life. I don't think that that's something that you get over. In his statement, he said that he doesn't think that there's any further help for him while he's in prison. I fully do not believe that statement. I believe that there are so many programs and so many treatment options that are available while you're incarcerated to really sit down and get to the why of what happened. If you don't understand the why, how are you going to be able to be released into society and be expected to not offend again? If you don't understand what's going on with yourself and where you're at mentally when this happened, how are you going to be able to move forward and to not expect this to happen again? I'm just asking that this board does not put anybody else in the position that my daughter was put into by releasing him early, by releasing him without a clear and concise understanding of exactly what he did, why he did it, and why he won't do it again. The outside triggers, the outside factors, the drug use, the alcohol use, I don't care about any of that. What I care about is the fact that a 14-year-old girl was sexually assaulted by a grown man, and he still does not understand why he did it. He should not be released into society to risk this again. When he was out on bond, he could not follow the restrictions. I don't think that that's changed. I don't think that that 3 years of a 15-year sentence is even remotely enough to cover the damage that he has caused to my daughter for the rest of her life. I'm so grateful that you guys sent me a letter that I'm able to speak. And I mean, just thank you for your time. And I really just hope that you take these things into consideration. He doesn't understand what he did, and he's not ready to be released, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. You may hit *6 to mute again. Thank you, board members.
Thank you, Mr. Jesus. Mr. Simon, when did you finish the short-term sex offender treatment program? Did you finish that in October 2024?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you participated in the interview for the evaluation in August 2024?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. I just want to clarify those dates. Ms. Zappo-Sasso, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think the theme that we've heard today, which was just reiterated by the guardian of the victim, is the why. And there are a lot of unanswered questions. I would feel better if we knew what some of those factors were that contributed to this crime. Mr. Simon has done programming, including Tier 2, the short-term sex offender program. And there is a note that he has participated in some programs on the mental health unit, but he has not done voices, which was added in September to his OAP. And I do believe that there's probably other programs as well that he could avail himself of. And I would like to start the conversation with recommending that for our deliberations.
Thank you. Do I agree with all that you've said. I do think that there is more work to be done with Mr. Simon. I appreciate that he successfully completed the short-term sex offender treatment program. He was able to identify his triggers and some risk factors. I still am concerned with his ambivalence or inability to really, I think, appreciate the gravity of his crime. And I say that because it took Ms. Zappo 2 direct questions to get him to that point. And, you know, I look at the evaluation, and there's still evidence throughout his evaluation of his inability to recognize, you know, that he sexually assaulted a minor child. And I say that because, you know, she didn't say no, just other statements by him, which lead me to believe that there is some concern still. As I said, he did complete the short-term sex offender treatment program. It was after the evaluation. I do think that he gleaned some insight from that. I have some concerns with his substance abuse. He did not do well on pretrial supervision. His bond was revoked for substance abuse. I'm concerned that he doesn't recognize his alcohol abuse, which is evident at many places throughout the documents that we've reviewed, how alcohol has had a negative impact on his behaviors. So I do think that Mr. Simon has some more work to do before he's suitable to be back in the community. Ms. Chance?
Yes, I guess my concern is that, yes, he did complete the short-term sex offender program, but I'm gonna use a word. It's his inability to understand the why and acknowledge exactly what he did to that child just before her 15th birthday. So whatever insights he thought he gained, he never shared here today. Telling the PO that he thought the feelings were mutual, but when I asked him after he completed the program what he meant by that, he couldn't say. So for me, that is a concern. He may have completed it, maybe gained some understanding. I don't know if he didn't want to mention any of it here, but that was a concern for me, and not acknowledging the fact that alcohol and or drugs may have played a role in however he was feeling or whatever he was doing. So my personal feeling is that today is not suitable, that he needs to do some more work on himself.
Okay, so nature and circumstance of the current offense, injury and impact to the victim,
Yes.
participation, because he could still do more, some voices still on his list, and inadequate evidence of offender change, or do we see some, we do see some evidence. of offender
There
change.
is some, but because of the serious nature of it, I wanted to hear more, and I didn't.
Okay. So in the matter of Robert Simon 256201, there's a motion to deny parole for the following reasons: nature and circumstance of the current offense, injury and impact to the victim, inadequate evidence of offender change, and inadequate institutional program participation. Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. Mr. Simon, we think that you're making progress. We just really believe that there is more work for you to do to be successful in the community. The best of luck to you.
This concludes the hearing for Robert Simon 25620.
It's nice to see a denial, isn't it? You know, we're so accustomed to the insane happening. We're so used to the parole board just saying, yeah, but you know what? It's better for him to be out in the community so he can take more programs. But here, thankfully, there was some common sense. But where there is no common sense is the sentencing. I mean, look at this, and thank you, Holly, for putting this in such an easy to digest format. We have here when it happened, right? 5/3/2020. He's arrested 3 months later. It takes for them to actually arrest him. And we know that he gets out on bond, right? Then he doesn't have his plea date until June 30th, 2022, and then sentenced September 20th, 2022. He has his parole hearing in February of 2025. I mean, think about that. They would have had the sentencing, it would have just happened. Someone needs to explain to us simpleton, to us sheeple, why the book was not thrown at him. Saying 15 years jail, suspended after 7, parole eligibility after serving just about half of it, when you have DNA evidence. Why? You have DNA evidence. You have the royal flush. She is underage. There is no, it's a guaranteed conviction. But it's the system that we live in. And then to add the insult to injury, he only needs to register for 10 years. A judge knowingly agreed to that deal. A DA purposefully offered that deal. Then to go on to further bring insult to injury, the system, the static 99 risk score, which all 50 states in America use, adhere to, they put him at a low risk. Now, we've gone through the static 99 I don't know how many times already. We know it's the 10-point questionnaire. We know that it's a scheme. We know that it was really two men, someone from the UK and from Canada, that created it in the 90s, created it with, you know, without publicizing the results of their data and whatever. But the bottom line is they created it and then make a living until this day selling the classes to the DOC, teaching everybody how to use their static 99 risk score evaluations. They made a form and now profit from it. Think about that, how insane that is. I follow their Twitter account. They tweet about their classes. They go to their website. You can go book a class. It's like $350 for an online 1 hour course. I can't imagine how many millions of dollars this thing probably pulls in a year. When you think about all 50 states use it, anyone who works for the DOC has to qualify in this static 99 thing. It's insane. It's insane. He's a high risk to reoffend for a non-sex offense. Isn't that interesting? So with this long record, they still give him a plea deal where he could have gotten out in 3 years. Now, his full term date is, let's see right here, 2028, I think. So he's got a 3 more years or so left on his sentence. Of course, his fiance is still with him and supportive, right? We see that all the time. You know, just the way that the hearings handle, the way it's so, his answers to his questions and coming the manipulation and then you hear from mom and you hear her just, what a great job, mom, standing up, dropping a mic, laying down the facts, saying the truth, something that is so clear to all of us, but not the DAs, not the judges, because they don't care. They don't care. And that's, why we keep doing this. At some point, people are going to wake up and say, this is madness. And with that, I'll let you go.
Hearing Mr. Simon admit for the first time what he did to my daughter, probably the hardest thing I've ever had to experience in my life. Because up until the day of his sentencing, everything was so nonchalant. So I didn't do it. This is a lie. I did nothing. And even at his hearing, when he pled guilty, it was, okay, what's going to happen if I just plead guilty? Does the time that I've been in jail count towards whatever I'm going to get? A 15-year sentence with less than half of it having to be served, in my opinion, is not enough for the life-changing harm that he has caused my daughter and my entire family. My daughter was not even 15 years old when this happened. It happened the day before her birthday. She spent her 15th birthday doing a forensic interview in a police station. It's a day that she'll never, ever celebrate again because of what this man did to her. 3 years of a 15-year sentence is even remotely enough to cover the damage that he has caused to my daughter for the rest of her life.